Now get out of my way.
And ultimately down he goes. Adam Butler with the sack.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Essentially Heroes. The podcast is back. It's been a while, but we are back at it. Got me, Etienne, and I am rejoined finally by my partner in crime,
Johnny Farris. What's up, folks? Been a long time. A little bit of a hiatus, but Essentially Heroes is back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And yeah, so today we're gonna be going back and covering something that I think people have already talked about, but we just wanted to give our take on it. The Loki Disney Plus series. That's right. Is, I guess the latest, not the latest, the second newest installment in the Disney Plus, I guess, franchise of TV shows. And yeah, we're just gonna be going over the good, the bad, and I guess the crazy when it comes to the series. There's a good few things to talk about here. But before we jump into it, I think we have a word from our sponsors, as usual.
Yes, we are sponsored by the fantastic Class & Co. Workspace. They've got two excellent locations in Brooklyn. First location is in Williamsburg, located at 260 Ainsley Street. That is just off the Graham Avenue train stop. Just a few blocks away, in the middle of all the Williamsburg awesomeness. And then separate from that, their second location is at 750 Manhattan Avenue. That's just off, that's on Manhattan Avenue, and it's by the Greenpoint train stop, both conveniently located by, right off the G train line. So feel free to check out Class & Co. for any of your co-working needs, and or if you have any venue, if you have any events, social events, work events, seminars, the like. They've got two beautiful spaces in addition to their co-working space. So check out classandco.com or reach out to 929-324-7980. Thank you, Class & Co.
Thank you to Class & Co.
That's right.
And on with the show. So I think I'm just going to come out and say it. Loki is probably my favorite of the Disney Plus shows that's out right now. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like it's my favorite, and the reason why is because between WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, what if it's good too, but what if it's like a different kind of thing and it's not done yet? But between the other two, there are things where, like, you're watching, but there's like certain parts of both of them where it just really doesn't resonate. Like, there's some pretty like big slip ups in both of those shows. And they're obviously they're great shows. Like, they're, super well written, super well choreographed. They're great. Like, there's a reason people are talking about them, but they're like some pretty big slip ups, in those shows. But with Loki, I would say that there are still some slip ups, but they are a lot smaller, and you don't really notice them until after the show is over, I feel, or at least that was my experience with it. And so I guess I was kind of looking at it mathematically, and I was like, yeah, I guess Loki has to be my favorite, because I just, like, there was never a point, like, during my watch of it where I was sort of like taken out of it by like a slip up. Like, only in like thinking about it afterwards am I like, oh, I guess that could have been better. But so yeah, that was like my initial I guess impression of the show. What do you think?
Hold on, I have a different sound. The sound may have come in at the moment while you were speaking, but this is popping open a bottle. It's 11:45 East Coast time here. I don't know if you caught that. That is a fantastic bottle of Ezra Brooks bourbon. Giving a little shot here, and capping off a nice evening of work. And here we are, finally getting back to the Essential Heroes pod. And yeah, my take on it couldn't be it could not be any farther from where you are. on this on this show, on this TV show. I am. Let me see how I can put how do I put this? Unquestionably, based on not every episode, and not in totality, I guess. Yeah, in totality, based on one specific point of the series, and yes, in aggregate as well. I think it's the worst MCU project to date.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm completely as far away from you on it as
Wow.
yeah.
Worse than all the movies too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I guess we got some some breaking down to do here.
Yeah. And I'm not. Listen. By the way, I don't want taken like. And we'll get into it, but if you take the property by itself, right, maybe against the world of what we know in the way of TV and movies that are happening now, and the incredible like TV properties that are out there and that are coming out more and more, and especially now you've got COVID and things are converting fully to streaming, and you've had it for years. I mean, Game of Thrones has been around and just completely revolutionized TV. In the realm of just that world, it is good. In the realm of MCU, it is not. It is. It's average. It's average. It reaches the height of average for me. It is not the greatness that MCU has put out. Okay. And I feel that way generally about, I think, the TV projects for the most part, with some glimmers of greatness. There were things I really loved, and we got into that a little bit on the previous pods. But no, with this, there was one specific moment, and it sunk it for me. So, and it's not like we'll get there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. I can't wait to get there. And so I guess I'll start out with my pros.
Sure.
Going into it. So I guess the first thing that I would imagine stands out to most people is probably the acting. And so I would say that the casting was one of my favorite parts of this because obviously Tom Hiddleston bringing his A game as Loki as always. And I think Loki was one of the first characters in the MCU, or I guess one of the first side characters in the MCU where people were genuinely more interested in him than the main character.
Sure.
Being Thor. And, especially in Thor 1 and 2 when they really hadn't discovered what they wanted to do with him, he was definitely carrying those movies hard. And so, there was always talk about Tom Hiddleston getting his own Marvel project, and I think he's definitely shown why people wanted that here because very solid performance as always. Then bringing in the man himself, Owen Wilson, to play Mobius, I believe is the character.
That's right.
And just the chemistry between them is really good. Like just the buddy cop element that they had going on towards the beginning of the series, is like pretty strong. Like it was almost like a Marvel detective show.
It was. I agree.
Towards the beginning, yeah, and it had this this element also of distrust between the characters because they were trying to kind of like outplay each other because obviously Loki's ultimate goal is what's good for him, and at the whole time we don't even really know where Mobius stands. Like, is he actually trying to help Loki? Is he going to ditch him at the end? And I think that Owen Wilson's performance really sold that in a way where we honestly couldn't tell which side of the fence he was on. And then you have the other cast, the actress that plays Sylvie. Renslayer was pretty good, and I guess I'll just call him Kang, because that's the ultimate person in the show. John Majors playing Kang was a really interesting take on the character, or at least this version of the character. And at first, when I was like looking at him like in that final episode there, I was like, I don't know if I buy it. But then like towards the end, I was like, okay, all right, he's got my attention.
Right.
So that definitely helped like elevate the show for me. And I guess aside from that, also the world building here and sort of like the expansion of like what we know about the Marvel universe was also like pretty interesting to see. So kind of like taking a step back from, you know, what we know about sort of like the on the ground or even like the in space situations, and kind of like taking it back, like a step back and look at the cosmos for a second. I thought that was really interesting, that you know, at the end of it all is just an office. And obviously it's sort of like a different take on it of the TVA from the comics,
Right.
Which I think is more of like kind of like a space cops thing, but like a more like sci-fi version of it. But yeah, I just thought that, you know, that was all like super well done, and so that was kind of what like brought me into the show to start with.
I did love the chemistry, actually. Yeah, and I love, and you're right, buddy cop is my wheelhouse. Buddy cop is where I live, separate and apart from superheroes and every story therein. I'm a big fan of the buddy cop storyline, which as we were just discussing, we're going to be putting out a buddy cop podcast soon enough. But I'm a big fan of that, and we just came off of, well, I mean, it's been a while now, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier was exactly that same thing, where you've got the classic buddy cop story where it's generally one good cop working with a criminal, or sometimes both cops are being vilified, both good guys going against the bad guys, and two guys forming, or two girls, or two persons forming this chemistry along the way. And that's exactly what the situation was here. You're absolutely right. It was a bit of a detective story, and Mobius is the cop working with the bad guy, and working with the bad guy who's in jail, and often the bad guy, the good cop, has to get the bad guy out of jail to make things work. It goes back to 48 hours, like the beginning of, as far as I'm concerned, and when what the general acceptance is in the buddy cop world. But I'm a big fan of that whole storyline, and I totally agree. I think the acting is, for me, what is enjoyable, and this is why I would go back and watch. And when and actually, like, I think I watched more of these episodes than the previous shows, not just for homework, not just so we could get to this point, but because I really wanted to go back and say to myself, is this really how I felt about this project? And the acting for me was what saved it. The acting, that chemistry between, especially Mobius, Loki, the rest of the Lokis, Sylvie, that was fantastic. And yeah, there are things I really hated about the TVA, but I do enjoy the dynamic of this. You're right. It's interesting. It's one take. This office at the end of time that kind of runs more than we ever would think, or more than the you know, it's strong. You know, I have an idea. I'll tell you. You tell me where you want to go next, but I think I have a take on the TVA. It's something that where they ran with it, which is interesting.
Yeah, of course, go for it.
Hold on, I'm going to open a seltzer, which is a familiar Essential Hero sound. Not a beer this time. And yeah, the TVA, the fact that it's an office at the end of time that has this inexplicable power behind every, I guess we're going to get to the multiverses here. I guess to the timelines. I'm assuming they're some sort of binding fabric. The fact that it's this strange, cryptic, secret office reminds me of I don't know if you know about it, and I haven't read the comics. I want to. Do you know the character Forget-Me-Not in the X-Men?
No, I don't think I know that one.
You don't know him because you forgot him. His power is causing amnesia in every single person he ever meets. So ultimately, he is the strongest X-Men because no X-Men can remember him. The X-Men don't know he exists. He's kind of like rewriting time with every moment. So it's kind of like if you've seen 50 First Dates and he meets that character 10-Second Tom, who's got a 10-second memory and he never remembers anybody he meets. Imagine 10-Second Tom is the opposite and the entire planet is 10-Second Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Huh?
Tom lost part of his brain in a hunting accident. His memory only lasts 10 seconds.
I was in an accident? That's terrible.
Don't worry, you'll totally get over it in about 3 seconds.
Right. So, Forget-Me-Not is this one character, and they wrote him in, apparently, like, I think the character was created in the 80s, maybe early 90s, but he goes as far back as the original X-Men, and it seems it's almost like they're rewriting history. And it feels like with the TVA, and I never knew anything about the TVA. I didn't know about them in the comics. I don't know what comic they featured into. I'm assuming the cosmic stuff. But it's like they chose this villain, this bureau to be a part of the fabric all of a sudden of the MCU to be able to rewrite everything. Like, going back to the way like J.J. Abrams took the Star Trek franchise and turned it on its head and said, we're gonna fuck with time, we're gonna go back, we're gonna show Kirk, and we're gonna show what's his name, the Nimoy's character, like,
Father.
I am not our father.
we're gonna change all of that. And it was a clever trick to do so. Maybe triggered by quarantine. I don't know when the TVA came in, but when it came into the MCU in that respect. But yeah, I wasn't as it featured into the show. Enjoyable, but not what it's not what I wanted from a Loki series. Put it that way.
Yeah, I can get that. What I was getting from sort of what they were trying to portray with it, was I guess just a take on bureaucracy,
sure,
and how sort of kind of like personifying the idea that like there's a force that's like preventing change, like there's a force that's like keeping you from getting to where you want, or like just doing certain things you want to do, right. Which is honestly like a pretty solid analogy for a lot of stuff that goes on in our own lives, because like, you want to, I don't know, build a pool in your backyard, for example. Like, who's there to stop? Like, government's like, whoa, what are you doing? You can't do that. We have rules.
Oh yeah.
Yep, take it down. And so just the idea that, there's this massive like Kafka-esque system behind the universe that, controls time itself and is making it so that and like nobody knows why either. Like that's literally like, as if Kafka wrote it. Like, it's something that really is that I personally thought was interesting to see, because like we always think about like a specific bad guy. Like, it's always like some sort of like guy in a throne, like commanding armies to do his bidding. But they're like, yeah, what if it was actually just a system that sort of made everything else irrelevant? And they even go as far as to show that like, yeah, the Infinity Stones are pretty much worthless in their clutches, so like it doesn't matter how like strong you are or how important you are or how cool you are in your regular circumstances. When you come before the powers that be, you're just a number. Like you're nothing basically. You're just a cog in the system.
Sure.
Not even a cog. Like you're a grain that the cogs grind up and
which
spit
is
out into dust.
It's an interesting perspective because from what we know of the universe, that's what we are, right? That's what our planet is. Our planet is. I believe Obama referenced it in a recent, not a recent, when he was president. There was some sort of discussion of the fact that we're a speck of sand on a beach. Like that's how that's the size of the Earth. That's so. What are we to that? To this entire universe? I get it. We're not even a cog. We're dust. So.
Yeah. And so yeah, I definitely get that it wasn't what you were expecting, but at least for me, like I got sort of like I managed to like get what they were going for, and I thought it was an interesting take instead of, you know, having like a, because that's another thing about this show is that it's, I would say, the first one where you can't exactly predict what's going to happen, like what direction it's going to take.
You didn't,
so, like, for example,
you didn't feel that way for the beginning of WandaVision, the first few episodes.
I could pretty much visualize where WandaVision was going in a broad sense because you know, so I think by episode maybe 2, or even if you've been like watching the promotional materials, like it's pretty easy to figure out that, you know, Wanda was in some sort of like fake reality. Obviously she's gonna break out. And you know, obviously, you know, with Vision being there, there's going to be some sort of, you know, catharsis between them. And yeah, it was difficult to know exactly where it was going, but
right.
I think by the time that we were seeing the other side perspective, like we knew, yeah, they were just going to burst the bubble, and then, you know, Wanda was going to have to, you know, face a threat, and
right.
seeing, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously Falcon and the Winter Soldier fight the terrorists.
Yeah, that's a simple one. Yeah.
Yeah. With Marvel stuff, there's a good guy and the bad guy, and you know that the good guy and the bad guy fight. And that's across the board. But with Loki, like, since it wasn't like a person, it was more of a system. And in that system, they're going on like a mystery sort of adventure. As opposed to like a gauntlet, it was a lot harder to predict like what direction it would take. And then obviously we didn't know that, you know, this was going to pretty much break the multiverse. And we didn't know that, because there isn't really a big bad to defeat at the end. I mean, they do, but that's not really the crux of it. It's more of like a should we or should we not at the end. So it's basically like Lord of the Rings, and you know, the ring is like tempting Frodo. He's like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I?
The ring is mine.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the other thing that I thought worked about the whole setup, was that it just made it so much harder to, you know, see like where it was going to go.
Sure.
And
I agree with that. I agree. There was a clear sense of mystery as to what was coming here. I'm with that.
And so, yeah, I guess the other thing I will say about it is that there were a good few creative ideas that I thought were interesting. So like when Loki was figuring out the whole like hiding in apocalypse thing. Yeah, that was cool. You know, to sort of make their get around the TVA's encyclopedic knowledge of everything that has happened and will happen. I thought that was like really fascinating, because I love to see just people come up with like really like smart and clever ideas in the face of, you know, something pretty you know, seemingly unstoppable, which I personally thought was one of the flaws when it came to the Infinity Saga.
Right.
because obviously like Thanos had all these like pretty unstoppable powers, but one, he like never used them, and two, the good guys pretty much all they did was just punch him. They didn't really come up with a strategy besides just taking the glove off of him. And so I would have liked to see more of that sort of like digging deeper and coming up with like a really like clever plan in that side of Marvel stuff. So that was just another thing I appreciated with this show was the writing in it, and just different like weird little ideas that they add in there.
I think they had to, based on the circumstances of filming this show and the characters that you had, the way they had to go with it. I'd love to see.
Yeah, of course, especially with a character like Loki, it's like you got to have him, be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, I'm with that, but your same problem with Thanos and the way the Avengers dealt with him in the Infinity Saga is my whole problem with this series. Is okay, I get it. He's working with Mobius and he's got this detective hat on, but he's also the god of mischief. Like, this is the guy that's supposed to cause all kinds of problems.
Asgard will fall, and I will be there to laugh in its ruins, to see you and Thor in chains.
Like, he gets into a bureau, like, all right, there was some stuff that he started to mess with, but no, I ultimately I wanted to see him do. I mean, what stone was it? He gets the in Endgame at the end. It's the Tesseract that he gets away with.
Yeah, it was the Space Stone. Yeah,
that's the Space Stone, so he can go anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get it. He gets caught, and he gets caught by the time cops, not the space cops. Like, it's interesting in that respect, but regardless, he's got the Space Stone. He can do anything. I mean, he is the god of mischief. He just tried to take over Midgard, gets caught, and that's it. He's basically caught up in this whole jail scheme. He can't do all his mischiefy stuff. Like, he doesn't use his powers that much. I was annoyed by that. In recapping a certain episode, it was the second to last episode. I was annoyed that they were sitting on a ridge watching the endless sunset that's happening on that weird, whatever, like lockdown zone that they were in. I forgot the name of that place. What when they kill themselves? What are they called? I forget what that adjective.
When they get like pruned.
Pruned, yes. Whatever the pruning zone is, I don't know what you call it, but when they're there and it's kind of cold, he makes himself a cape, which I was annoyed. He didn't just put the cape on her, like, and just have a little moment, guys. Like, eventually he had to do that, but that's it. He's walking around in like an office outfit, like he maintains his prison uniform basically the whole time.
Yeah.
I want to see more. He goes and sees all the other Lokis, and they're in their costumes. Even the freaking alligator has a little Loki hat on, Loki horns on, right? So, but yeah, you don't get that, and that really annoyed me. And just to go back to Thanos, like, I don't know if you've seen the Avengers. The Avengers Assemble series, season 2 or 3, when they take down Thanos. It is an awesome, like, 4-part episodic arc where they systematically take down Thanos by taking out each stone, and that's what I was hoping for in the movie. But the movies were great. But I mean, I did enjoy the movies, but it was very cool how each. I think we talked about it actually. Have you? Yeah. Do you recall? Is this ringing a bell?
Yeah.
Where they take down the one thing that you might recall is they take down the time stone because Thor he makes every character super old and Thor gets strong, super strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was just one aspect. It was awesome. And then of course Thor just beats the shit out of him because he gets that strong.
The time makes his guardian stronger.
Yes. Yeah, and the Bureau, just to go back, this was a sub point I wanted to make, is time, variation, criminality only human? Does it only pertain to the human race, or to Earth, or to Midgard? Did you think that at all? Did you wonder about that?
So they definitely didn't show. No, it doesn't, because so they show that, you know, this thing encompasses other planets, so
sure,
they can basically go anywhere in the universe, because the tempad obviously takes them to like this random like mining planet.
So why are okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And then I was going to say, like, yeah, they had all those Lokis there, so obviously they can go to Asgard.
Sure.
And they even had a Thor in there. They snatched up a Thor.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's
so,
right. Okay.
Yeah, so they can, but they don't show the scope of all the things that they deal with in the show. So like, you only get to see a glimpse of a lot of stuff on Earth, some like Asgard related stuff, and then, you know, they kind of like want you to assume. So it's very limited in that regard.
Why do we assume that the TVA only impresses humans or humanoids, if you will? They're thereby Asgardians or Midgardians, so to speak, right? You don't see. I mean, we in the MCU. We've got the Asgardians, we've got Celestials, we've got Chitauri, we've got whatever planet Thanos is from, and Nebula and Gamora. You've got Frost Giants. You got Ascavarians. I don't know if they've been depicted in Guardians. You got where Drax came from. You got a million different, not a million, but you got a lot of planets. You got a planet. You have Ego the planet. He's a freaking planet, right?
Oh yeah.
But TVA has all this power, but only we're the only bad guys that are impressed, meaning absorbed into their officer corps. That's it. Then like Earth, what we're just a complete we're a feeder. What's it called? A penal colony, basically.
Yeah.
that annoyed me.
I completely agree. Yeah. And most of the TVA workers are human. If
Right.
I'm recalling
Right.
correctly.
I mean, this is the MCU. I get it. You guys are filming during quarantine, but you're still fucking Marvel. All right, you guys have billions to tap into, okay, to make a product, and a mask could be quarantine enough, could be social distance. If you guys put on some great, you know, they've done some excellent makeup work. We've seen it in the movies. So, and you watch WandaVision. I mean, Vision was Vision. It wasn't like he was a watered down. He didn't look any different. He was Vision. He was Vision straight from Ultron, from the Avengers films. He was the guy.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree with that. It was super limited in the scope of what they show you in the show. You're right about that. And I also agree on the point of Loki sort of getting de-Loki'd and not using his powers a lot of times.
I wanted him in a casino. I wanted him in some far off planet, like planetary casino, like building a criminal empire, and then thereby starting to like systematically take over planets by using the space dome, and then getting thwarted and things falling apart, like and then like him becoming like he should be going from bad guy to worst guy. He was, but also like winning. I wanted to see the bad guy win, and that's what I wanted from this Loki, because this is the Loki that we knew from Avengers 1. This is the Loki that is completely like conflicted with the relationship with his brother, with the fact that he's actually a frost giant, or he's a mixed frost giant Asgardian. Like he had those issues. Go back and watch Thor 2 and you realize like, oh shit, wait, Loki's deep. Like there's way more shit than just him being the god of mischief and just being a guy who hates his brother or lives in his brother's shadow and is kind of an asshole in that respect. There's way more to him, and it would have been very cool to see that bad guy get jaded, and here he's got such power. He finally gets a stone that he wants, and what does he do? He gets caught. That's it. and then he becomes space detective.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say, one, I do think that his character development happened way too fast because, yeah, it is the Loki from Avengers 1 who is still very evil.
Right.
And, yeah, over the course of, I think, like an hour, he sort of goes from evil to kind of neutral.
Right.
By, I guess, way of, I guess, seeing how his evil plays out. So by basically breaking all illusions of that he has something to go back to, you know, they're trying to also, so they do a little bit of therapy in that first episode, right? So
Sure.
basically digging into the reasons of like so why are you this way, and having Loki basically be like, well, I'm not actually bad, I just want people to think I am, which is yeah, I do think that happened way too fast for someone who's been at this for like 1,000 years or something.
Right. I mean, he tried to, it wasn't just, he didn't just try to take over Midgard. That's the macro of it. The micro is go back to when he's in Germany and he announces himself to the human race. He doesn't just come in there, announce himself to the human race. He murders a guy in the middle of a party, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he did the thing with his eyes, like it was, he's ready to walk the walk, right? This isn't the negotiator, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not like he's a good guy in the show. Like, so Loki doesn't do anything to help anyone but himself and Sylvie, and Mobius. Like, so I will make that distinction. It's like he's not like he didn't give a damn about those people on the mining planet. Like, he's like, well, sucks to be them,
right?
And he just kept it moving.
I was relieved by that. I was like, okay, this is the guy I know.
Yeah, 100%. He's chaotic neutral. And yeah, he was ready to betray the like he never cared about the TVA. Like, he only started to care about Mobius towards like the middle. So yeah, I will make that distinction, and I'll also say that I appreciated them. I know that you wanted like a much bigger and more grandiose story from this, but I think that using this season as the setup and then maybe doing some of that next season seems like the better move, because I think that there was a lot more to explore with him on the smaller scale adventure as opposed to like the galactic conqueror of him, because
it's more interesting in the way of development. I agree with that. I'm not going to go against that, but it's just fun. And also, it's yeah, go ahead.
And also I will say that having him try to go back to conquering would be like weird timing when there's like a way tougher villain who just showed up and would 100% like just roll Loki like on sight. So
you mean in the way of Thanos?
Kang.
Oh, and Kang after this. Kang. Oh, I get it. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Sure.
Kang would delete Loki like in a heart, because the guy, he's like, even the version that we saw in the show who's like old and tired and just wants to die, like he still was like unstoppable just because he knows everything. Right. And then you bring in like Kang, like the actual Kang, the Conqueror, who has like a fleet and can like go back in time and just like erase you the second you're born.
Right.
Like that guy, like Loki's not going to be able to do anything against that guy. So I think it would be better for him on this path where he's like kind of like an anti-hero agent who will most likely cross paths with the Avengers, like maybe take on a common objective with them and then go on his own path again.
So yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that. And by the way, like the concepts in this show are, let me see. Yeah, they involve two of my favorite sci-fi elements of all time. Any and every movie, cartoon, comic that has gotten into this, I love. I don't. You throw it at me, I'm into it. Cloning, because it's so cool that he gets to that prune zone and he finds all his other Lokis. He meets Sylvie. Like, that was fascinating. That concept I love. When I was a kid, I used to have dreams of cloning myself, like, and having like multiple twins, and I wanted to be able to cause mischief. I wanted to like annoy the shit out of my friends and do weird shit. Not even like criminal stuff, just be an asshole a little bit. I remember, like, I was a kid, wanted to multiple Johns to be able to. One of my friends was submitting their homework, and the homework would be gone. Like, that, just basic shit. Like, this is how far back it goes. But time travel is the other one. Time travel, I absolutely love those two concepts. Like, you can do so much with, and you couldn't in this. You were restricted. You're in this world. You're in a world where the time travel is completely owned by this bureau. And then the cloning.
Which I will say, like, another thing is that. So they go through the effort of showing you, I guess, the scope of the things that the TVA takes on, but then, so here's the, I'm gonna harp on the Infinity Saga a little bit more here. The other thing I didn't like is that with their time travel, I mean, obviously there's gonna be things that, you know, don't 100% make sense or come full circle, like the whole, like, Doctor Strange, like, this was the only way. I still don't buy that. I still think that's BS.
That what?
But
that Doctor Strange can what he's got the time stone.
In the movie, he was like, this was the only way that was possible, was letting Peter, like, mess it up for all of us and get us killed. Like, I still don't believe that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've talked about it. He says there's like 589,000 possibilities, like, whatever it is.
How many did you see?
14,605,000.
How many did we win?
One.
Or 5.5 million. I don't remember what it was. The number was astronomical, and there's one way. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, no, he didn't, and he definitely didn't use the time stone. So that was immediately like, what are you doing, bro?
Right. Right.
This could have been over in like 2 seconds, dude. Especially like when you see what he can do with it in What If.
Yeah.
I don't think you got that far in the show, but
I
like,
haven't. But I mean, even watch the. Do you see Dormammu seems to be stronger than Thanos? The guy's got a whole like dimension of planets that are under his control. So,
yeah,
and he stops him for a minute. You know, causes this little time blip. So
that's like a hard logic error in that movie. That's like that's like getting robbed and you have like a machine gun in your back pocket. Like it's insane. But yeah. So the other thing about that, obviously, was like, so in the show they try to be like, oh well, we didn't stop the Avengers because that was supposed to happen, and then it's like, why? And then it's like, go fuck yourself. We're not gonna explain it.
Right.
It's
Right.
It's like, why was that okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was and again, like I said, I'd love to see. There are things I always want to go and explore. We talked about it extensively on the Schneider Cut podcast, where here was a director who this has never happened, where we've got to see his original vision come to life. I'd love to, I think I mentioned it in that podcast, I'd love to see George Lucas's original notes for all the stories that we're now seeing, all the Star Wars movies. I'd love to see what this original project was, because I'm going to bet that it was not the same, or maybe you know something about it, that it was rewritten or changed to work within the guidelines of coronavirus, which sucks in that respect. But I would have liked to have seen more.
Yeah, same. And I think all the shows were kind of kneecapped by that, and it definitely shows in Winter Soldier. It shows a little bit.
Sure. It
definitely shows in WandaVision at the end, where some characters just vanish without saying bye. So those were like my other like nitpicks with it. With like all the Lokis that show up there, it's cool to see them, but they don't really add anything.
I'm gonna give a pro. I have a favorite episode. I have a clear favorite episode that I actually like upon watching it, and when it gets to this point, I was like, this is fun. This is cool. Was it episode 3 when they're at the bar when he's singing?
Oh, when they're on the train.
Yes. 3 or 4. That was straight up. That entire story, everything that happens in that moment is a ripoff from Mandalorian. It's a complete, it's a complete Star Wars vibe. It's you get at a bar, they're having a good time, and then the bar fight ensues. I mean, a bar fight. Granted, it's my it's my wheelhouse. Also, it's my first film. I'm very connected to that. I feel nostalgic about any sort of bar fight movie scene.
Oh, come on, give me a break. I don't want to get in a bar fight. People are always getting in bar fights. It's a damn cliche. People are getting hit in the head with them damn beer bottles and furniture.
Very buddy copy in that respect, but at the same time, it just felt Star Warsy. I think there were other characters, there were seedy characters in that bar, and they're having a good time. And Loki's just like, fuck it, you know what? Let's just relax. Like we got time. It was that was clearly my favorite. I think actually.
Yeah, and I think I forget if it's that episode or the next episode where they have that really awesome like long take.
Yes.
As sort of the planet is coming apart and they're trying to like get on the ship.
Yep.
They're like trying to like, bust their way through this like chaos that's happening. And so they I think that there was a lot of cool stuff that was happening, in that section of the story, both visually and story wise. So
right.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool as well. So yeah, pretty much for me, those were my sort of ups and downs with it. And like I said, for me, the ups just sort of outweighed the downs of the show. And yeah, like you said, there was definitely like a lot more they could have did with this, both visually and story wise. But overall, I think that it did its job of one being a sort of unique entry into the universe, and also just setting up pretty much everything else that's going to come in Phase 4 at this point. And so yeah, for those reasons, that's why I kind of have it at the top of the show list.
How did you feel about the season finale?
I thought it was interesting.
Granted, you spoke about it a bit because you got into Kang, but
yeah, I thought that was interesting as well, because obviously it defies expectations in a few ways. So like early on, you pretty much figure out that the, I guess, trinity of space lizards doesn't exist, and that there's something else going on. But when they're heading into that castle, there's just that sense of like what's next, like what's coming. And so basically to have like him in there just being like, yeah, you won, and this can either get better or so much worse for you guys. And just really having this almost debate for the fate of the multiverse was like pretty interesting for me. And like I said, at first when I was like sort of introduced to what was happening, and that it was sort of this very like tame finale, originally I was like a little bit disgruntled with it. But as I sort of like heard what was actually being said there, and sort of Kang's place in all of this, then I really started to get into it, because yeah, it's like the more you think about it, the more you don't know what's going to happen, and you also don't know what the characters should do, right? Like there's no really right answer in that situation. Like obviously I suppose the better answer is to just take over the TVA and kind of just, you know, start running things. But then at the same time, like, is that really the best way? Like, how could things go sideways from there? And so, yeah, just seeing how it played out and sort of, because so the thing that like kind of struck me the most was that like, how usually when you like sort of introduce a new concept at like the very end of a story, it doesn't work, right? So for example, you know, you have I hate that trope in movies or in really anything where, you know, they're fighting a bad guy and you know, they manage to beat the bad guy, and then the secret bad guy comes out and they're like, it was my plan all along and you will never defeat me. Like I really hate that, because basically they're chucking this other bad guy that we were actually spending time with, and then you're starting on like a whole new person at the very end.
You didn't find that to be exactly the case here, where the TVA was this seeming unknown like villain, and then you meet the real bad guy at the end.
Yeah, like I said, that was originally where I was at.
Yeah.
But then as I was listening to sort of what he was actually saying, then I started to get invested, because, you know, he was explaining the reason why everything is the way it is, and you immediately start to understand him and actually agree with him in a lot of stuff, because yeah, having a multiverse full of people who could just show up and just wipe you out at any second, that's not cool. And it kind of just makes everything a lot like there's less stability, like he was saying, like he's creating order out of the chaos, because the multiverse is literally chaos. And we've seen this in the comic books as well. Like there's an Illuminati story. Illuminati is a group of, you know, I guess the smartest people in Marvel. And so you have there's like Professor X and like Black Bolt and I think Namor, Black Panther,
right,
Doctor Strange, Iron Man. And there's this thing called the incursions happening, where different universes are kind of like smashing into each other, and they're like wiping each other out. And so what the Illuminati decides to do is like go into their universe first and like delete them so that it doesn't mess with their universe.
Right.
And they have to make that hard choice of being like, yeah, we just have to like just extinguish all these like literally countless, an entire universe full of people, like double what Thanos was trying to do multiple times. So actually like just dozens of more lives that they were taking than Thanos. And they had to just make that choice, because it's like, well, if somebody's got to die, then it's not going to be us. And so that was basically what Kang was doing in order to, you know, protect the entire universe. And obviously the people who were pruned, including Sylvie, who was, you know, hunted down, was just a casualty of that, like an egg to make an omelet, basically. And yeah, you immediately like see where he's coming from through that. So that was the reason why. And you also see the emotional toll that it takes on him. Like he's basically insane by that point. Like having
Kang, you mean,
like,
He Who Remains?
Yes, yeah, Kang, He Who Remains. He's basically like you can see the overtones of insanity coming onto him by that point. Because he's a guy who was trying to do like a good thing, and then it just went the worst possible way, and then he had to become a bad guy in order to fix that. And to the point where, like, yeah, he really didn't care like whether he lived or died. Like he just wanted it to be over for himself. Like that's sort of the magnitude of what he's been carrying since like time I forget how long he's been alive, but like a very long time. So so yeah, I thought that it was really cool how in like the very last stretch they introduced this new part that's like just so intriguing, and sort of makes up for the late admission into everything. And yeah, obviously like this version of the character is dead, so it's not like you know, he who remains is going to be the one coming into the fray, and we're gonna have to get used to him. But it is sort of like he's sort of like a last minute like Hail Mary like pass to things that were coming. So that was like where my head was at during that whole thing.
I fell asleep. Yeah. That was my.
The episode is mostly talking. Yeah.
Yeah. No. It was the moment that I referenced at the beginning of this pod. The moment that sunk the show for me was that that final episode. I've been to Marvel movies with friends who have fallen asleep in the movies. I have not been one of those people. I've been intrigued and thrilled and glued to the screen. I tend to loathe movie watchers who are in a movie and pull out their phone, for example, to check out Instagram in the middle of a film. I see that occasionally. I haven't been to the theaters in a long time now. But I used to really, really hate that aspect of moviegoers. I wasn't that guy. I loved being in the theater. As you know, we've talked about it. For the most part, I don't watch trailers. I have seen you guys have done a fantastic job with trailer reviews. Recently, you guys did the Matrix film that's coming. Mm-hmm. The renewed Matrix, whatever you might be calling
Resurrection.
it. Yes, Resurrection. You did Spider-Man. You've done a couple different things. I tend not to watch them because I want to go in cold and I want to be blown away. And Marvel has done that every time. In this final episode, it put me to sleep. And I was so annoyed because I do tend to watch these things at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day or at night, like after I'm done with work and the events or errands that you've got to do. And now, like you and I we were just talking about it, like the other night, the fact that so many of us don't drive to work anymore is just an added 10 to 15 hours potentially, depending on where you live. You're not taking 10 to 15 hours to yourself. You're fucking working. You're doing something. You're doing something for somebody else. That sucks. And granted, in New York, it's what we do. I used to drive and I'd be on the phone, and you're not supposed to be texting and doing that shit. But this is what happens. This is just how work is. And now this is so. Fast forward to now, and it's just even more work. So when am I watching this show? When am I watching 30 minutes, 45 minutes? I tend not to actually be tired. I tend to be pretty excited to catch up on this stuff, to see something I haven't seen. I start to go back. I mean, there's thousands of hours of cartoons that I want to watch. There's hundreds of hours of movies and film and stuff that we've talked about that I want to get into and podcast, and there's so much out there. So I was excited to see the end of this Loki story, despite the fact that it wasn't giving me what I wanted. And what does it do? It puts me to sleep because you've got 3 people in a room talking. And if that was in a comic book, I don't know how many comics that would be. I would get completely bored. I fell asleep. I woke up 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, whatever it was, enough to and they were still talking. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Is this real? So now, of course, I've got to go back and watch it again, right? The next night, 2 nights later, whatever it was, a week later, I went back, I watched it again. I fell asleep again. I think I made it further into the episode, but there is a lot of script that is happening in that moment. And not only that, there's something of the style of actual cinematography that's happening. And I also think this is due to COVID, because when you have two people talking, right, in a room, whether it's at maybe they're at a restaurant, they're at a cafe, or they're sitting at a dining room table. Often it's around some sort of food setting, right? Or at a bar, perhaps. A bar's a little different because they might both be facing the bartender at the bar. But let's put it at a table, and what you have, or at a desk, and you have one person or two persons on one side of the desk, and generally the other person, the employer or someone else of some sort of power. Clearly, he who remains in this situation. We've filmed. There was something you and I filmed specifically where this was happening, where it was an interrogation, right? Where we had a police officer and then a potential criminal suspect, right? It was a typical criminal interrogation. But what do you when you do that? What are the shots? You're doing the over the shoulder of each guy, of each character, right? And then you're doing the wide where you see both of them, correct? Mm-hmm. And then maybe another shot for something interesting, but for the most part, you get the over the shoulder, so you see one character talking to the other character. Then you go to the other over the shoulder of the other one, and then you get the wide of the two in the room, because you want to be there. You want to feel like you're in the room. I think there was much of that was filmed without the wide shots. It felt like a lecture, it felt like a lecture from He Who Remains. And I noticed there was one word I think that he said specifically that triggered me. And I've heard this word before. I never saw the movie where this. I think there's a movie by with this title, with the name of the title. But once he said the word dogma, and I looked at the script. He says, "This is where we diverge from the dogma. The first variant encountered a creature created from all tears in reality, capable of consuming time and space itself." And then even that, he's talking about Eliath. Like, that was kind of easy. This Eliath character was that major? And I'm going on a tangent here, but once he said dogma, like, and there was another point, I think Rensselaer said it. I just watched that episode. She said something about dogmatic law. I'm like, did you just lose me? I don't know what it means. I don't really understand it. It's vague. It's a concept that I kind of grasp a little bit, but it's not what I'm looking for. And I was very frustrated. I mean, and just to give you my frame of reference, when it comes to what I want from these movies, granted, I know it's simple. I'm a buddy cop guy. I'm an action guy. I want to get in and get out. My top films here, like from the not Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm going to go into the Marvel comic film universe, which is Sony, which is Marvel / Disney, which is Fox, right? Which is now all Sony and Marvel, but previously they were separated into those studios, meaning Spider-Man, and the Avengers, basically. My wheelhouse, my top of all the films that are out there now, for the most part, something along the lines of Spider-Man 2, X-Men 2, Cap 2, a lot of sequels here, Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool, Infinity War, right? Those are, and you unpack those films, there's a lot of action, right? Infinity War is action. Infinity War is the what's the second Star Wars movie? Empire Strikes Back, right? That's where everything falls apart. That's where the bad guy wins. Like, that's where, like, there's just, you see so much in that film, and the bad guy is just like, everyone is just falling apart. And of course, at the end of the movie, half the fucking universe disappears. Like, it's cool shit. And same thing. You get the X-Men. The X-Men series just jam-packed full of powers and action and fights and cool shit. Like presidential almost assassination. Spider-Man is saving the like, and then we get 3 people in a room and one guy saying things that put me to sleep. That's what I get it. I actually like Kang. And I know him from also, not less so from the comics, more from the cartoons, because I've seen him in those in that timeline. But yeah, I mean, dogma, hence the timekeepers and a highly efficient bureaucracy. Come on, man, really? Like, it's the logical conclusion of a time villain bureau, right? Is one guy at the head of the bureau, right? Or one character. So for me, it's as the way you felt initially, where you were. What was the word? You weren't annoyed. You were left wanting more, something along those lines. Disgruntled. You said disgruntled. Yeah. You were skeptical. You were disgruntled. That disgruntled never left. Especially, again, after I was very frustrated saying, holy shit, did I really just fall asleep watching one of the most thrilling characters to have graced the cinematic universe, like Loki and Hiddleston? Like, his acting is awesome. Like, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you brought it home when you said, here was a villain who was more fun to watch than Thor. Thor was the jock. Loki was like the charming douchebag brother. Like, there's something, and then you get deeper into his story. It was cool shit, but yeah, I was frustrated, to say the least.
So you would have preferred for it to end in like a fighting, like a fight spectacle, like with the other movies.
Well, it did, right? I mean, didn't at the end of it, wasn't there a fight? Didn't it go down that way?
There is a fight, but it's a much more personal fight. So it's not like the usual. So with Marvel, they'll usually throw like a horde of like faceless goons at the heroes, so they can like show off their powers.
Yeah.
Like 9 times out of 10, that's what it'll be. But yeah, with this, it was a struggle between Loki and Sylvie to decide like morally like what they should do.
And I get it, and I'm with that, but just give me less convo. That's it. We're watching comic books here. I mean, these are comic books coming to life. The main audience of these comic books were 18 to like 26. Right now, that audience has expanded immensely, obviously because of the movies now for all these years. But what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I said it depends on the comic book, really, because like there are a lot of stories that are more heady than than a lot of the action stories. So yeah, even like Watchmen, like there's not a lot of stuff that happens in Watchmen aside from like the major conflicts. And yeah, Watchmen is very much not about like the characters like going out and like kicking butt.
And I'll give you, you know what? I'll give you. Watchmen is a great example. I'll give you another example for me and I love it. And I've told you we're gonna get there. We're gonna podcast about it. If you're gonna force me to watch something, I'm gonna force you to watch Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol for me.
I did watch it.
You watched the whole thing. You're at great because we're looking at. Season 3 comes out tomorrow night, right?
Yeah. And which was also, just on a side note, that was also something that was kneecapped by COVID.
Okay, interesting. Okay, well, I loved 1 and 2. I loved the seasons, and that is a show I have yet to see the development of characters the way they've done the development, and there is not. I agree with you. That comic is weird as shit, and it's heady, but it's enjoyable. And this TV show has made me even want to go back and read more of it because they're not dealing with crazy action. At one point, there's they've got a similar character to Kang in that TV show, and that dude, and what's he doing? He's in a roller rink dancing. I mean, it was a fun scene, you know. So there's a way to do it, and you're right. I'm not against the headiness. I'm not against the scripts or the storylines that aren't just about what Avengers assemble, for example. Ultimately, it's always some giant villain that ends up getting beat up in some respect, right? With the exception of that Thanos arc that I was referencing before, but. Yeah, this was too much. This you know what it reminded me of? I mean, there was long before we mentioned you did the recent The Matrix trailer review. Way before social media, that was one of the first backlashes I can ever recall was the end of the Matrix saga and watching the Architect and Neo sit in a room and talk for 20 minutes in the movie, which felt like an hour. It might have been an hour. All right, they're going back and forth, and that scene. What's the word? It's been completely like destroyed in comedy now and just gone. Yeah. Oh, they beat a dead horse with it, right? I forgot what the word he uses all the time.
Yeah, it was like a exposition dump, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, vis-a-vis. Yeah, he says vis-a-vis. So it's a bit of a weak use, a weak word in grammar to kind of throw in the middle of all kinds of shit. So yeah. And I could have seen Kang say it. I could have seen the He Who Remains easily say like, the time variant, vis-a-vis these creatures, Alioth. Like I said, he hit it. He said dogma, and I was done.
100%. Like I really agree with that, and I do think that with Marvel and with Phase 4, from Phase 4 moving forward, there will be a divide. So going forward, there will be stuff that a lot of the fan base, like the majority of the fan base, will want to see, and there will be a lot of it where a lot of them won't really want to check it out.
Right. Interesting.
Or they won't be encouraged to check it out because Marvel is moving away from, I guess, the standard formula of, the heroes, because with the characters that they're using and introducing, a lot of them aren't really the same types of characters. Like so they're introducing more characters that aren't superheroes, pretty much. And with these characters, there's just a lot of times where they just don't get into the same things as the main characters. Like they're not gonna fight hordes of enemies to protect the greater good, or they're not. So like that's kind of like, I think, a common theme, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Eternals will also be that way, and possibly even Moon Knight to a degree. And She-Hulk, who knows? They might sort of balance it, or they might not. I don't know, but that's
multiverse of madness, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like they're gonna have a lineup of action stuff and a lineup of sort of other stuff to appease both groups, because basically, just like you're saying that sort of how they had it set up in Loki bored you, there's also like a pretty big group of fans who say that the action stuff bores them, because at a certain point it's all the same.
It's not. But it's not. You know what? Yeah, but that's never going to end. That's never going to end. Yeah. This is where we listen again. Know your audience, right?
So basically, they're going to end up doing both, and so that's where the divide comes from.
I'm sorry. I don't see the audience of people looking to read and watch that sort of stuff all of a sudden turn to the Eternals and this different spin-off, this separate multiverse of content from Marvel, so to speak. Right? Yeah, you think about it. When you walk into, you've bought comics at comic book stores, right? Mm-hmm. Same here. When I was a kid, and I loved it, and what got me and the comics, and I used to get the Wizard to guide me and look at other shit and see what what's cool. But from the start of it, I mean, I'm dating myself, but before looking at the internet, before any of that, you'd walk into a store and you'd see this stuff, and these and it still happens today for me. The covers are gripping. The covers are what is telling you the story, right? And or at least giving you some glimpse into whatever's happening. Like, oh shit, what? Wolverine and Cap are fighting? Like, number one for me, that's my number one favorite comic book cover. I want to recreate it in some way, shape, or form, but take this episode, for example. If this was the Loki comic and you broke 5 or 6 episodes, broke it up into 10 or 20 comics, what does this look like? 2 guys talking at a desk? Well, Loki, Sylvie, and He Who Remains, like, they're very serious talking at a desk. Like, all right, this looks like the most boring comic ever. Right?
I mean, but the Illuminati though, that's a lot of what they do is talk.
Yeah, and I ain't buying it.
Decisions like that's their thing.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, and by the way, and Kang also, like I've seen, like Kang features heavily in the Avengers cartoons, and it was interesting. It was very cool. I think Kang is behind some major events that are happening on Earth, like with the Avengers. Like it was cool shit. And I'm like, whoa, time out. Cap is not who he is. Like this is, and Kang has something to do with it. This is awesome. Like I couldn't wait to get to that stuff. And what you're talking about, like you're saying, he's not just he's not a creator. He's an engineer of time as we know it. Like you just said, he also has these armies. He's got ships. He's Thanos of time. Like it's awesome. You know, and I want to see more of that. Yeah, and
that's what they're setting up. Like I'm assuming gonna be, because I believe he's the villain of Ant-Man 3, but he's also the villain of I think the rest of Phase 4.
That's cool.
So either it's gonna be him kind of like popping in and out of Ant-Man 3, or it's gonna be like one variant in there, and then like the main variant. Well, there's gonna be a lot of variants of Kang coming through, I think, but yeah, they're setting it up so that he's gonna be, because they're setting up Secret Wars basically.
Sure.
And so with that, they're setting it up so that he will be the sort of main threat to everything.
Right.
So kind of like a different flavor of Thanos. But
right. And that was another thing with what he brought to the role. I had my problems with Brolin as well as Thanos, because there's certain things that are changed. Brolin's Thanos, for example, is serious and like afflicted, like by like he know like it's a duty for him to take out half the universe, and he's really like
he's very human. Yeah,
he's human and he's burdened by it. That's not the Thanos I grew up with. That's not the Thanos I read in the comics. The Thanos I knew was he's the mad titan that smiles. You saw that in one scene at the end of Avengers, right? He wipes out a planet and then smiles. He's got no burden. He's got no remorse. He's like, this is life. This is living, right? And you talked about it. You said, who was it? There was a what if? There was something where the Punisher takes the cosmic power supreme and then like rams it into Thanos' brain and is like, all right, here, you're going to destroy Earths and other planets every day for the next 20 months. Like, and he comes back to him and Thanos is like, that was awesome. Can we do it again? Like, that's the guy. You know, that's Thanos. He's the epitome of bad. He is as bad gets. He makes Darth Vader look like a third grader, right?
But the thing is like, it's so, well, there's two things. It's one, for a movie that kind of, it's debatable whether that will work or not.
I get it. And I'm not opposed to how it played out.
Watching something in live action, it like there has to be like something behind it.
Sure.
And the reason why I think those movies are as well, because at this point, like, Thanos is probably being put in the history books as like one of the greatest like movie villains.
Sure.
At this point, and it's because, so the thing about the Marvel movies is that they're not for the fans only anymore, right? Like, the Marvel has become something that like kind of transcends the comic book fandom and is now like just pop culture, like on the same level as like
Star Wars.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is Star Wars. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get it.
And so it's made for people who like don't read the comics,
sure,
and don't necessarily care about the comics,
sure, and
is a sad truth. Like, it came from the fandom, but it's outgrown the fandom. But
I get
the reason behind that is so it can sustain, you know, its massive earnings.
And that's
because if it didn't appeal to everyone else, then it would still be it would be niche. Like it wouldn't be what it is today, and we wouldn't have things that we have from it.
And I can relate to those fans because I didn't read the comics with Kang, right? Didn't read enough of Silver Surfer. I got into Silver Surfer when I was young. Got into it more later. I don't know the Kang storylines there, but again, I knew Kang more from the cartoons prior to the movie.
Right, but it's like people who don't know any of the characters at all. Like
sure.
They have zero preconception for any of the characters, so they're going in
100%
purely off of just hype.
I get it. I get it. But that's the thing for me with Kang as a big bad. In this respect, in this storyline, in the Loki series, I like how you characterized him as he's bored. He's done. Like he's done his thing, but he still doesn't want to go. He's still playing the character. He's still playing the game, if you will. Right. This is a game of chess that never wants to end. Like that. It reminds me of she might have been equally as strong. What's the Sorcerer Supreme before Doctor Strange? What's her name?
The Ancient One?
The Ancient One, right. She's the Ancient One. She's awesome. She's super powerful. And at that last moment in the Doctor Strange movie, she's like, here it is. I know this is the moment where I die, but I'm dragging it out just because I want to watch the snowfall in New York. Like it was, it's a human moment. It's kind of cool. Whereas Kang is like, I'm not watching snow. I just want to keep playing the fucking game. Like he's having a good time. He was too, for me, he was too enjoyable. Like he wasn't evil enough, I guess, in that respect. And like the way it played out, despite the fact that I'm falling asleep watching the episode, at the same time I'm falling asleep, but I want to see this guy at the bar, at the train, at the car, the wherever they were in that episode 3. Like, I want to have a drink with this guy. I can relate to the fact that he's burdened so much by the work, and I was like, hey, you know what, Kang, he who remains, do you like bourbon? Let's sit and talk a little bit, right? Maybe this will relax you.
Well, that's the thing about this one is like he's not evil. Mm-hmm. Is the thing. He's just like his entire purpose is to keep the evil one like from existing.
Right.
So that's the contrast that's being made is like yeah, like if you thought that it was like a pain getting to me, it's like I wasn't even trying to stop you.
It only gets worse.
You just wait. Yeah, like just wait until the guy who like actually wants to murder everyone is free. Then you're gonna know like what evil is.
Right.
So that's the distinction there. Like they did that on purpose. But yeah, overall, I'll say, well, I guess you can kind of think about it this way, right? So did you watch Thor 2?
Yeah, of course.
The Dark World?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what do you remember from that movie?
Thor, I referenced it before, right? That's where Loki discovers that he's the son of a frost giant?
No, I think he doesn't. I think he knows that in episode 1. I mean, Thor 1.
That was in Thor 1?
I believe so, because I believe he turns blue in that one.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
That's the first time he turns blue.
Give me the breakdown, and I'll tell you what I remember. I don't remember much. You're absolutely right. If that's the case.
Well, yeah, that's kind of it. Like, there's a lot of battle scenes in that movie. The villain is very evil. Do you remember the villain's name?
Time out. The villain was the thing that comes to destroy the planet, the city.
Not really a thing. He's a guy.
Then no, I don't remember. No, I don't.
Malekith the Dark Elf.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm mixing it up. I'm completely mixing it up. Yes.
Yep. He is very evil.
Right.
And yep, they have a big old battle at the end, flying around between London and some pocket dimension somewhere in some other realm, and they're doing it up, and yeah, then the movie ends. And
time out. That
is
that okay? Wait, is the end of that film where he loses an eye?
No.
That's not. That doesn't even happen in there.
Ragnarok.
That's in Ragnarok. Okay, got it. Yes. So you're right. That film, I'm with you. That film is forgettable. Thor 2 is forgettable, and I get that we should go back and just dissect that whole fucking film as it's accepted to be the worst of the MCU film series. I'm with it. I didn't fall asleep though, dude. You know.
Yeah, you didn't fall asleep, but you don't remember it, so you might as well have fallen asleep.
Possibly, but I didn't.
So that's my logic going.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I understand that.
Like so just from my perspective, like that's what makes Loki, despite the issues and despite its slower pace, makes it worth it, because it's at least setting up something else that you can like just look at on Wikipedia later, I guess. But yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, pretty much looking forward to. So in this one also.
Oh, by the way, time out. In Thor 2, guess who was in that? By the way, you may know this. Shazam.
Oh, you mean the guy who plays Shazam?
Shazam, yeah, that's right. The actor who plays Shazam was Fandral.
Yeah, he's one of Thor's buddies. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of his team.
Yeah, and they kill him off so casually.
I know. I agree with you. By the way, you know what? Give me that. Give me. I will watch a full season of Thor's whole squad. All those guys. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Come, Hogan, Fandral, let us give unto this scoundrel the gift of battle.
That would be outstanding to see those guys getting into trouble. One of them leaving Asgard, going to Midgard, fucking around, coming back. Like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my like points of lament for that, is that they just never get a chance to shine.
Yep.
Despite being, Thor's best friends. I don't know. I guess they figure it would make the fights too easy or something. I don't know. But yeah, I was sad to see them go. I definitely want to see more of them.
The Warriors 3. Thank you. I forgot.
Yeah. The Warriors 3 and Sif, because she's a girl.
Yes. Fandral, Hogan. Yeah, that's great. Vorstag.
Yeah, but she's still around. I think she's coming back.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be good to at least have one of them around. But yeah, also, so with this series, also seems to be setting up a Young Avengers situation. So if you'll notice, the characters that died in this show, young Loki was not one of them. And if you have seen the Young Avengers comics in the last couple of years, young Loki is a pretty prominent member of that team.
Have you? We've talked about this. My nephews are, when they were much younger, but they were a huge fan of that animated film. Did you see? You know what I'm talking about? Either the Young Avengers, Next Avengers. Yes, this comes up periodically with us every few podcasts. Yeah.
It's such an interesting piece.
I want to see it. Yeah, it's high on my list of animated projects that I need to see of animated works. Yeah.
But yeah, even that's like a different team. I don't think that team has ever been in a comic books necessarily. Like I get the feeling that they made up a lot of those characters for the movie.
I'm with it. That's fine.
I think so, because I don't think I've ever seen most of them show up anywhere. Like, I don't think the main kid with the shield, I don't think he shows up anywhere. Black Panther and Storm's kid. I don't think he exists.
Who is that kid? Who is the Captain America kid? I'm curious.
He's Captain America and Black Widow's son.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought me to this. This is another point that bothers me about this show, about Loki. Mm-hmm. Okay. They kiss at the end, Sylvie and Loki, right? Is there a kiss?
I think so. Yeah, like at the very end.
Okay. I got a real problem with that. Marvel Cinematic Universe and the TV series has this real problem with, and we've talked about this. We've gotten into this on previous podcasts. Like, they don't. There is no. Where's the love? It's really what it comes down to. Why can't? Why did that happen? That would have been a perfect. And when I went back and rewatched this episode 5, and that moment where, first off, he's a douchebag because they're sitting on the bridge, watching this endless, terrible cloud sunset looming Goliath character who apparently is the eater of multiverses. He's that major like of a character, that cloud. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, it's cold," and he makes himself a robe. And he's like, "Should I conjure one up for you as well?" Like, fucking conjure it up for her, man. It's cold. Like, just do it. That's it. And then in that moment, then that's where the first kiss should happen. Like, at the very least, like, there's this disconnect of that. I don't know why it's not there. Like, and I'm very happy that in some universe, in an animated film I have yet to see, Captain America and Black Widow had a kid. That's great. Like, yeah. I have there was a property brought to me by a family member. It was a radio show. And it was very, very cool, but it was a spin-off kind of like the events between Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier, and then Cap 3, where you've got Cap and Black Widow, and they're working together, and Falcon's not quite there yet. But, you know, I looked back and I listened to the show, I listened to the script, and I was like, you know what? They kissed in that moment in Cap 2. Like, why isn't there some sort of romance there? I know that Hulk is Black Widow's boyfriend.
Wait, in Cap 2, isn't that Sharon?
Sharon? No, I'm talking about. I know Cap 2 well. It's very high on my list. I've seen it many, many times. When they are evading, first Cap escapes Hydra. Well, he escapes SHIELD facility, which is secretly Hydra. He gets away, and then Black Widow is helping him. She's his accomplice, and they're in the mall at one point. And they're in the mall, and they're coming down an escalator, and Rumlow is coming up the escalator the other way. And Black Widow's like, kiss me.
Yeah, and they do the fake
They have a little kiss, right? She's like, yeah, people are freaked out by public displays of affection.
Kiss me.
What?
Public displays of affection make people very uncomfortable.
Yes, they do.
They kiss. It's a moment. It's a meet cute. It's chemistry. It's something that's happening. And it's something that could play into something else, because clearly you got two soldiers who are spending a lot of time together. And this is some stuff that happens, right? When you work with people and you don't have significant others, this is what happens. So I wanted to see more of that in this with Loki and Sylvie, and a full, like, I'm not necessarily saying, I don't need Kang to start making boyfriend and girlfriend jokes. I mean, I wouldn't be offended by it. It'd be funny, I guess. But that doesn't, like Marvel has this weird, like this weird need to maintain this PG-13-esque feeling. Like, no, that's not how the world works. Humans procreate. This is what we fucking do. I don't need to see full sex scenes.
I don't know if it's necessarily for that reason.
It seems to be. I think their audience is. I think their audience. My guess is they want to make a parent feel comfortable with taking their 9-year-old to the movie theater. I'm assuming, and granted, that's changing a little bit now because we're going to full streaming. So who knows where that may go? But
no, I wouldn't say that. I would say it's more because of, well, it's two things. Like, one, most superhero movies have like a love interest in there, and like I think most times it doesn't really pan out. So like, for example, like with Ant-Man, it's kind of like way too obvious. Like it's like whenever there's like a girl character on screen, it's like, yeah, she has to like go for the main guy. And I think a lot of like filmmakers and also audience members are kind of getting like also a little tired of that. Like, and so basically in order to get around like just pushing two people together, they kind of just let it play out how it does, like kind of let it pace itself. So like they're not gonna like push up the timeline or anything to like get a character to like be into another character necessarily. Like, so unless like in the comic books they 100% end up together, I think that they're kind of taking a more I guess slow approach to that, because like no one comes to see them for that. Like, and for a lot of people it's actually kind of boring because what is that pushing forward necessarily? Like when
romance and chemistry and love.
Yeah, like if it's not like, if the love story is not gonna like come into play at the end, then I don't like, I think for a lot of people they're like, yeah, skip it. And so for me personally, with the whole Loki Sylvie thing, like I honestly wouldn't have cared either way. Like
I see it as a major point of his purpose in this whole series. Is that I think all he seems to care about is Sylvie.
Yeah, but at the same time,
except for himself, he cares about himself. But here's the first time where he's thinking of somebody else.
Right.
He used to think about his brother, and then he'd say, "No, fuck off! I want to kill my brother. I want to become my brother." So.
Yeah, but it's like, in this case, it does play into it, and so basically the whole time he's trying to figure out if he loves her in a romantic sense or just in a like, she's a Loki so I want her to win sense. And like that's kind of like what's going on with the character.
Sure,
like,
that's the conflict he's having.
He doesn't know if, because he hasn't really felt that before. Like he hasn't bonded with a person before.
Right.
So like he doesn't know what that's like. So it makes sense for him to just really not be sure how to handle that. But I would say that more of the movies are moving away from that, because, or at least they're like balancing it out. So like some characters have a love interest and some kind of don't. So characters like Black Panther, Spider-Man, like they have like love interests that they like show in the movie. It's like, yeah, he's into this character. And then for other one, or like Star-Lord, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure.
And then for other characters, it's kind of like, do he, don't he? Who cares? Like
so those characters don't need to have sex or make love or find a connection. They're human.
Apparently not. No.
Well, that's
because
that's inhuman.
Because also like a lot of times it just so like with Doctor Strange, like you remember that lady who was in the first movie who he was super into?
You mean the doctor? You mean Kate? Oh shit! I always forget what her name is. That actress.
It's like, where is she?
Well, she was his ex. Like I think he should move on or would have moved on or gone back to her. I don't know. Yeah, he's an interesting one. He's at times he's a stone keeper, for crying out loud. He's the sorcerer supreme. And yes, does that mean he should be James Bonding like the world, like finding other magical characters? Going in,
because it's like where would that fit in? Like she's not gonna come live with him at the thing, like so that's kind of like the thing, is like if they can fit it in is good, but I think at this point they're done trying to like, whatever happens, like they have to kiss. Like I think that's Marvel's mindset at this point.
Yeah. I got a problem with Marvel removing the primal, the basic reproductive needs of human beings and the primal feelings that we have. So.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
So what I'll also say is that in going back to Captain America 2, they did Captain America 2 and also Age of Ultron. Like they did like really be like, yeah, we have to get it in here. We got to shove it in here. And yeah, they made Captain America kiss his niece for no reason.
But again, as far as we know,
which also is his dead friend's I believe granddaughter. So that makes it double weird. So kind of, and then also with Hulk and Black Widow, you know, the very random out of nowhere romance thing that again goes nowhere. So though that's what happens when they try and be like, yes, this movie needs a romantic subplot.
But romance,
there isn't necessarily one.
But romance doesn't need to go somewhere. That's the point. That's the thing. It can happen, and it often does in the real world. So
I feel like when it comes to movies, it's different though.
Yeah, but
movies, they have to wrap up nicely.
Art imitates life,
structure.
Right? I mean, yeah. James Bond certainly doesn't wrap up.
There's no 3-act structure for life.
James Bond certainly doesn't wrap up nicely with most of his romantic relationships.
Be careful what you wish for.
You're scared.
Thank you for the drink, Mr. Bond.
He had one. He had a wedding, and the bride died in the movie in the first, 13 minutes or something. So.
Yeah, that's a staple of James Bond. So
sure,
that's one thing.
And many characters. But yeah. I think we should get to Doom Patrol eventually. I know I'm jumping around here, but I'm excited about it. So, yeah, you got me excited that it's coming tomorrow. We're jumping to a different universe, folks. DC is totally different, but it's I love what they're doing with TV. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of, we also got to do Suicide Squad as well.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right. There's movies.
Yeah, Suicide Squad.
There's TV. There's much to come. And we'll and stick with us, folks. I think we're gonna have some short form stuff coming to you very soon. Some battles, some characters, some other features. So we'll get into it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But Any final thoughts here? What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much.
You love it.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid entry. I thought it was kept me guessing, and it made me excited to see season 2 and also the rest of phase 4, including No Way Home, No Way Home, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange 2, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
Main multiverse entries, and also I guess whatever Young Avengers thing they're sneakily setting up in the background.
Sure.
Yeah. That's me.
Thank you. You've made me want to go back and watch it again and hopefully not fall asleep in the 6th episode. So, yeah. All right, cool. I think I'll pay more attention. I'll try to. And if I fall asleep, I will let you know. I will. We'll come back to this.
Yeah, let me know. I'm curious to see if the explanation will do anything for you.
Sure. I'm not opposed to it. All right. Well, this is that time of the pod. Essentially Heroes is now going to be signing off. We appreciate your time, folks. Thank you for sticking with us. This was a long one. We had a lot to unpack when it came to Loki. But
yeah, a podcast as complicated as a character.
That's right. So there's a lot more to come. Stick with us in the coming weeks, my friends and fans.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys.